Test, test, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Test, 1, 2, 1, 2. Say again. Good? Yeah? Okay. Very important. Gotta make sure it works.
I don't think you need
Hmm?
I don't think you even need it.
No, in truth, I probably don't. I mean, for a long time, I didn't use it at all before we did the renovation.
I prefer it without it.
Yeah.
Because number one, it causes you to be more.
Yeah, I know that actually. The truth is, that's a good point. Right, when you rely on this stuff, it's a little bit different.
Your voice is different.
But sometimes that happens also just because I ate too much. It's the weirdest thing to be that receptive to the thing.
How are the children, Rabbi?
Children are well. Children as of this morning.
Don't say a word.
Exactly. All right,
Don't
this
try it.
as of this morning. That's all I can ask for. But she's okay. She's doing all right. I think finally got over all the sickness things. So just push it.
should have a crown.
Yeah.
Would have fallen off. I fell down the stairs.
Oh.
And after this, I slipped.
Just today?
She kidding me.
Yeah, but like use the heating pad tonight.
No, just ice.
Just ice? Okay.
It's deadly, it's one or the other, you're supposed to go back and forth. And here's the third or the fourth one. The fourth one.
Did I mess you up?
My word.
Oh, well, I can move. Okay.
And you'll have very good food.
I'll stay here.
This Sunday. Okay. By the way, I don't know.
Hi, how are you? I still go to book club. I'm still going to book club. Wednesday night, yeah.
Neil.
Enough people around, it's always different people, we say fellows names, but you forget, you know, so, it's not, I had a wonderful one in Indianapolis, you know, we had a big show, sometimes we discuss the book, sometimes we discuss the book, sometimes we discuss other things, you know.
85. 85.
That is old.
We're really flying, it's 19.
You look like you lost a lot of weight.
A book club at the library. I'm in Sag Harbor, that's so nice.
Today?
That's so nice. Yeah. We split up. We used to be dinner. Take place in Mexico with Mexican dinner.
There's a funeral in the
The Express.
Yeah, well, also they have, I think they have their own in-house funeral. They have their own. No, the Pennsylvania. Yeah, so. Otherwise, you know. Yeah, exactly right. So, or give some of your assessment of Tuesday. Another time. Like, sorry. But I'll say this much: Lawrence Day on Wednesday. Lauren had her practice, so you know, which I'll send you if you want. Yeah. But yeah, I was just by doing it on the day Tuesday, you know, I think you know, it prevents a certain group of people really from coming. Anybody who's sort of, you know, regular working and all that. Yeah. Which was a, you know, he is a generally impressive person, but I thought that was yeah. But I think he spoke beautifully, you know. Right. Alrighty, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good Shabbos. So Neil, just so you know, we arranged this whole thing just for you, just all the service just for you. No, for those that don't know, part of our Shabbat celebration is very much oriented towards this wonderful human being here, sitting humbly in the third row, Neil Fagan, who on Sunday, correct? On Sunday, will be celebrating a pretty important birthday. You're celebrating today? No, exactly. That's the way it's supposed to be. Every day this week, we'll celebrate Neil in new ways. But, you know, well, that's not our kind of celebration here. We don't like that kind of celebration for sure. But you know that there is a rabbinic concept that says that when it comes to fulfilling mitzvahs, you're supposed to run towards them. So you just took it a little bit too literally, and we have to be a little bit more safe. But in general, I'll just say that as part of the decision to celebrate some of your birthday with us tonight, I gave Neil the option of picking the subject for tonight's sermon, which he gave me, and then I will do what I've done many times over the years working with Neil, which is I will not do what he asked me to do. But I will bank it for another time. It was just too serious of a conversation for tonight, but we'll get to some Torah later and some just general appreciation of you, Neil, and of course to thank Andrea and Jill for helping to pull all of this together. And for that, we're going to give back where it is given to us. We'll invite Andrea and Jill up to the bima to light and bless our Shabbat candles. And thanks to Josie, we have a new lighter, so everything should go very smoothly this week. But yeah, exactly. We'll see. It's becoming something of a running gag around these parts, I think. That's it. Yeah. If you need anything else, let me know. Yeah, probably. Look, we used to come up to the bima. That felt, more the way that things were. Here. You want me to do this one? Here, let me do this part. Here, you hold this.
Here's my cheat sheet.
So much for the new lighter.
Look, I can do certain things.
And certain things he can't.
Apparently not. This one I really have no explanation.
I'm a pyromaniac.
There we go.
Got it.
If we had Ike here? Oh. That was Ike, by the way.
Ike?
Yeah.
Having fun.
Yep. It's the candle, yeah.
How come there's two sets?
It's a poor
for
craftsman
Israel.
who blames his tools.
One is for Israel. Is this the
All
one?
right, hold on one second.
I don't need that.
I do.
Don't worry. That part.
Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen. Amen. All right, so we'll turn now in our prayer books and our Sidurim to page 130. And if you're joining us for the first time here tonight, our prayer books look just like this right here, so you should hopefully have one in your pews. If not, please let us know. And I know Neil in particular loves to hear people sing. So, right, everyone's going to sing along tonight. We're going to get a lot of ruach in the room. Make Neil happy. Page 130, the very top of the page. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena l'Adonai. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena l'Adonai. Naria, naria, letzor ishenu, nekadma fana vetoda. Naria, naria, letzor ishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena l'Adonai. Lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena, lechu ner hanena l'Adonai. We're now on page 131, Shiru l'Adonai, just in the middle of the page. Shiru ladonai, shiru shir chadash, shiru ladonai, kol haaretz. Shiru ladonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato. Shiru ladonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato. Shiru ladonai, shiru shir chadash, shiru ladonai, kol haaretz. Shiru ladonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato. Shiru ladonai, baruchu shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato. We'll turn now to page 132, or Zarua, which is just at the very bottom of the page in Hebrew. Or Zarua lahatzadik, ulehishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua lahatzadik, ulehishrei lev simcha. Simechu tzadikim b'Adonai, vehodu lezecher kodsho. Simechu tzadikim b'Adonai, vehodu lezecher kodsho. We're now on page 134, at the very top of the page. Zamru ladonai bechinor, bechinor vekol zimra, bachatzotzrot vekol shofar, hahariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, yiram hayamum lo, tevel veyoshveva. Neharot imcha uchaf yachad harim yiranehenu lifnei Adonai kiva lishbot haaretz yishbot tevel betzedek vehamim mesharim. Yiram hayamum lo, tevel veyoshveva. Neharot imcha uchaf yachad, harim yiranehenu. We're now on page 135, the last Hebrew paragraph just in the middle of the page. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. We'll turn now to L'chad Odi on page 138. A reminder, we'll do the first, second, fifth, and ninth paragraphs. For the final paragraph, for those with us in the room, we'll rise and face towards the doors, welcoming the presence of Shabbat. L'chad Odi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad. L'shemo tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha. Ki mekor haberhacha merosh mikedem nesucha. Sof maaseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, ki ba'orech umiori, uri, shir daberi, kevod Adonai alaich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Bohi v'shalom ateret bala. Gam besimcha uvetzolha. Toch emunei aham segula. Boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Please be seated. We're now on page 140, Tzadik Katamar, which is the Hebrew just in the middle of the page. Tzadik Katamar yifrach ke'erez balvanon yizke shetulim Beveit Adonai Vechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrichu Od Yenuvun Beseba Deshenim Verhananim Ihu lehagid ki ashar Adonai tzuri velo havlatabu. Now rise in body or spirit for the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144 and remain standing through the Baruch Hu on the next page. Yitkadal veyitkadash shemei rabba b'alma divrach irutei be'amlich malchutei v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael b'agalaha Ubizman kariv eimeru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach, la'alam li'al me'al maya yitbarach, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar b'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushmechata v'nechemata damihiran be'alma v'yimeru amen. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. Let's read together now in English on the bottom of page 149. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam tamidim loch aleinu leolam vahed, Baruch atah Adonai, Hamahariv harhavim. We'll read together now on the top of page 151 in English. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Ki ehem chayenu ve'orech yamenu v'hem negei yomam v'layla v'avatcha al tasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Please join me on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha bechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele Asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha veshinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'shochbecha u'vkumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'ninecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha Uvisharecha Lemahan tiskeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim leloechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem mieretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet. We're going to read together in English now on page 155. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work. Whether you are tired or you are rested, let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. We're now on page 158, Micha Mocha, at the very top of the page. Ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye bye bim 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 bam, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye ba 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 ba, ya bye bye bim bam, ya bye ba 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 ba, ya bye bye bim bam. Mi chamocha b'elim Adonai, mi kamocha Nedar bakodesh, Norat hilot, O sefele, Norat hilot, O sefele, Yabai bai bim 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 bam, Yabai bai bim bam, Yabai bai bim 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 bam, Yabai bai bim bam, Yai bai ba 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 bai, Yabai bai bim bam. Yai bye 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 ya bye 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 bim bam. Malechutecha ra'u vanecha. Bokeam lifnei Moshe Miriam zeli anu ve'amru. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. V'nemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov. Ugolo miad chazak mimenu. Baruch ata Adonai. Gal Israel. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Hashkivenu is on the top of page 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Ushmor tzeteinu, uvoehinu, lechaim ulshalom, me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, ve'hamidenu Shomreinu lechayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. We'll turn now to page 162, V'shamru at the very top of the page. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, ledorotam berit olam, ein beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, uvayom hashevi shavat vayinafash. Invite us now to rise in body or in spirit as we begin the Amidah together on page 164. From that point on, we'll continue silently as always. Please go at your own pace, and if at the end you are still standing, you may be seated. Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Oseh shalom bimromav, Uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We'll turn now to page 371 as we prepare to offer our Mishaberach, our healing prayer for this evening. We'll begin by thinking of those in our community and connected to our community who are in need of healing. Barbara Goldfarb, Abigail Blum, Bensi Tepper, Allison Luckman, Michael Klinghofer, Ame and Warren Cass, Rivka Bat Rachel, Leah Bat Naomi, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Sivia Devora Bat Francis, Muriel Hirsch, Michelle Sawicki, Francis Kirschman, Shelley Newmark, Diane Axelrod, Gabriella Spicer, Barbara Kushner, David Kyle Klopman, Lorraine Davis, Kim Birnbaum, Deborah Block-Kroll, Sylvia Orn, Rachel Bat Ora, and Josephine Getling. In addition to those names that we just mentioned, for those that are with us here in the room, anybody who would like to add names, we'll start on this side, work towards the rear, and then this side. And of course, invite those watching at home to add names as well. We'll join together now on page 371, just in the middle of the page. Mishe be'irach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe be'irach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Now we'll offer our prayer for Israel in time of war. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, you know that the Jewish people are one nation with one heart, and today that heart is broken. O healer of broken hearts, binder of their wounds, be with our brothers and sisters who have been taken captive, and with the families of the victims. Watch over the hostages, break their bonds, and bring them out from darkness to light. As Isaiah said, proclaim release to the captives, liberation to the imprisoned. Comfort the families of those murdered, bring them under the shelter of your wings. Bring complete healing of body and spirit to all of the wounded. Bind up our wounds and grant us healing. Sur Yisrael v'goalo, rock and redeemer of the people Israel, bless the state of Israel, the initial manifestation of our redemption. Shield it with your care, spread over it your shelter of peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Grace them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Crown their efforts with victory. Bless the land with peace, its inhabitants with lasting joy. Shomer Yisrael, guardian of Israel, strengthen and bless the defenders of Israel, who stand guard over our land, on the land, in the air, and on the sea. May we see the promise of the psalmist realized, who said, you turned my mourning into dancing, my sackcloth into robes of joy. God, protect, preserve, and restore peace and well-being to Israel, your people. And together we say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So I know most of the people in the room will probably know Neil Fagan. Some of you may not know anything about Neil, and you're walking in completely blind. So we are celebrating Neil's 85th birthday on Sunday. I get to say the number, because to me a number doesn't mean anything, okay?
How many years was the president?
I'm getting to that. Okay, I'm getting to that. It's a very good question. So I said at the beginning of the service that I gave Neil the option to pick the sermon for tonight, and then I rejected his choice for another one because I want to talk about Neil. But as it happens, some great Torah this week, because I know how much Neil loves Torah, and I also know how much he loves a short sermon. So I'm going to try to keep to that as well, with as few big words as I can muster. But as Richard asked the most important question, for those that don't know Neil was our little Castro here. He was president of the temple for, well, I don't know, the 25 years, who's counting, a few decades, longer than, many people have been alive at this point. And I still have a dream at some point or another, many synagogues have a wall of presidents. I wanted to have a wall of presidents, so it's just your picture like the employee of the month up for several decades in a row. It's a very good idea. I figured a Purim spiel at some point or another we can work it in. But in all truth, in all seriousness, right? And I say this in many times in many different contexts, but I say it again tonight. I would not be talking to you tonight. I would not be at this bima. I would not be the very proud rabbi of this community if not for Neil Fagan. Now, I met Neil for the first time. Those that don't know, he was the president, therefore the head of the search committee, de facto. And I think you were wearing almost the same kind of outfit, right? I showed up thinking, shirt and tie, suit. I got to put on, and Neil was waiting for me in a conference room, comfortable as could be. And before the interview really started, we talked for what felt like a long time. And when we left, we shook hands, and we sort of, without saying anything, realized that this was probably the beginning of something. And Neil stuck with me, and I've stuck with him, and through that, we've learned a lot about each other, and we've learned a lot about what it means to love a community and to love a temple. So I want to share with you, Neil, a little bit of Torah, as I said. Two sources from me and one from my wonderful wife, who also feels the same way that I do about you, Neil, and loves you dearly. So our first one is probably a little bit more familiar, maybe at least to some of you. So this week's Parsha, Parshat Beshalach, contains one of the great all-time moments in the history of the Jewish people. If I were to go like this to you, what moment am I thinking of? Any guesses? There's actually many answers. Moses, okay, Moses, right? Parting the waters, okay? I always think, I'm, Mel Brooks guy, so I always think of History of the World, and he does that, and I think he's saved when he's actually being robbed by somebody, so he has his hands up. But it's, of course, one of our great moments, our miracle moments, and by the nature of the way that it tells us in the text, in the Torah itself, Moses stands there, raises his arms, and God parts the waters, and it's as simple as that. But we learn in the Midrash that actually there was another step in between, and another very important character who really, in the Torah text alone, he gets a little bit of mention in the book of Numbers, but otherwise is sort of an anonymous character. He doesn't really seem all that important until the rabbis take his character and make something from it. And his name is Nachshon ben Aminadav. So, all right, I can see. I always look at Ari Weller because I know he's going to know. All right, David, maybe a handful. How many people familiar with this name? Nachshon ben Aminadav. Okay, good. Okay, Linda, very good. Growing number. So again, not surprising that it's not necessarily the best known. The reason why Nachshon is known in rabbinic literature in particular is because when Moshe raises his hands, right, he instructs the people, walk into the water. Okay, God is going to redeem you, God is going to save you. But at that moment, the waters haven't yet parted. Okay, just imagine to yourself, and you've got chariots chasing after you, right, pressing upon you. Between you and certain death is a torrent, right, a water that you can't imagine possibly walking through, and yet here is this moment. And what is required is an act of faith. Okay, Moses may be lifting up his hands, but nothing is going to happen without this moment of faith. And so this person, Nachshon, he walks right into the water. And he demonstrates to everybody, right, what that faith looks like, what it means to believe in something, even when you can't necessarily see it with your most immediate eyes. And so, of course, I thought of this text and I immediately thought of Neil, because, while we, of course, sit here in this beautiful, renovated, revitalized building, all these beautiful lights, all this stuff working, I know there are many people in this room who remember the days before all of that, the days before you had a full-time rabbi, the days before you had a lot of the things that we perhaps take for granted. You had to envision something. You have to see something in your mind's eye, and you have to believe that you are destined to it, that not just you, but the people that you are leading, the people that you are supporting. we oftentimes think, right, Moses is the only leader, but the story of our people actually is littered with all of these other moments in which someone else needed to step up. Someone else needed to step into that position. And unless I'm mistaken of the history, at the time when Neil took on the role of president, there weren't really a whole lot of people ready to jump into the waters in the way that you were. And that was something that you did time and time again when you were president, Neil, including in your hiring of me, because as we've discussed many times, it was a crazy decision to hire a person right out of school, as you guys did. But Neil saw something in me that I think I maybe not have really saw in myself. And you believed in me, and you believed in this place, and you believed that we could do something wonderful together. And sure enough, we're standing here today. But this isn't the only story of Nachshon. This is the more well-known, but there's another midrash that I think actually is equally important. This one comes from another collection of midrash on the book of Numbers, Midrash Bamidbar Rabbah. And it describes a moment in which there is the sort of inauguration of the Mishkan, the proto-temple, the thing that actually really all of our worship spaces are built upon. And as the Torah describes it in detail as it's built, it's a communal effort. It needs everybody involved. And it includes a certain point in which once everything is built, right, there's a procession, an inauguration, a whole process by which that happens. And they ask the leaders of each of the tribes to come forward and to offer something up to the altar, right? Something as a sign of again, communal celebration of the creation of this new sacred space. And an interesting thing happens. Depending on the story, it's told in two different ways. One is that every tribal leader, in deference to the other, refuses to be the first person to offer, right? They don't want to seem like they're any grander than anybody else, so nothing takes place. The opposite story is also told, in which all of them are fighting with each other over who should get the privilege of being the first person to offer on behalf of their tribes. As it happens, either way, there's a deadlock. Nothing is happening. Okay, everybody is sort of, imagine the old Three Stooges, right? They're all three brothers are trying to go through the door at the same time. You get a bottleneck, it doesn't work. So they need another leader. Somebody has to step up. And who does the Midrash tell us steps up in this exact moment? Our wonderful friend, Nachshon ben Aminadab. Okay, but unlike at the shores of the sea, what does he do? He walks forward and he offers up this first offering. And as it happens, he's from the tribe of Judah. And the tribe of Judah, maybe, you've known somebody named Judah, you haven't really thought about it much. The reason that we all refer to ourselves as Jews is tied to that name. Okay, we are Israelites, we are part of the people of Israel, but we have called ourselves the Jewish people for much of the last couple millennia. And it's tied to this tribe of Judah in particular, which is elevated above all the other tribes for different reasons, but this is one of the stories in which they are placed on a higher pedestal because of the way that their leader stepped forward in a moment where everybody else, either for, let's say selfless or selfish reasons in either version of the story, nothing was going to happen. No movement was going to take place. The Mishkan wouldn't have been able to begin operating unless one person, again, stepped forward and said, this is what needs to happen. This is what we need to do. And that decisiveness, Neil, is another thing that I have greatly admired about you for many years. Something that I perhaps do not necessarily possess in the same way. I am sometimes paralyzed by thinking about things from every possible angle. And while I think there are times for that, our tradition tells us, in fact, there are many times where that actually is the way we ought to approach things. Sometimes what you need is someone, again, who demonstrates that kind of faith and belief that things need to happen. And we can't wait for things to be figured out sometimes. We have to move forward. And sometimes that's unpopular. Sometimes you can get, a little bit of pushback for that kind of stuff. But I can tell you, first and foremost, if you know nothing about Neil, if there ever is a time that it felt like Neil was doing something, pushing something forward, it was never for Neil's sake. Always for the temple. Always for what this temple represents and what it means to him. And in the end, to understand that what was happening in that story, that inauguration, those offerings, it's not a simple thing. It was not simply a matter of paying a tax or perhaps paying your dues or your capital campaign contributions, as some of you may have gotten calls from Neil over the years. It's understanding that it's a sacred duty, right? That when we contribute to and we connect ourselves to a place like this, and specifically to this temple, that is a sacred act. That is something imbued with every bit of holiness, of kadosh, that our people are capable of mustering. And time again, whenever our temple has needed it, not just in my time, but in many years prior, this man right here is really the first person who would step up. And certainly not the only, right? But Neil, by his very nature, finds a way to get people together, to get them involved, to get them committed. You don't stay president of a temple for that long, right? Even if you think you can. You don't stay president of a temple for that long, Neil, without a lot of people who appreciate you and love you and support you and know what it is that you have done, that which is known and that which is unknown, truly. So our third story, as I said, most important, acharon chaviv is what you say in Hebrew. The last one is the most important. In this case, again, coming from Lou. And this is a story that is also appropriate for its timing around the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, which we celebrated this week. And in this story, there is an old tale, told a few different ways in the Talmud, but about a famous person named Choni the circle maker. All right, I'm going to ask again, anybody know Choni? Know this story? If I said Rip Van Winkle, though, my guess is most of you will remember the essence of that story, right? A character who, falls asleep, wakes up decades later. So there's a famous story of Choni that works out this way. And he comes, he's walking along the street and he sees an older man planting a tree, a carob tree. And a carob tree, for those that don't know, takes decades to grow. According to the tradition, I think it takes 70 years before it ultimately produces any kind of fruit. So Choni, being the wise Alec that he is, comments to the man and says, "What are you doing planting this tree? I can see you're not going to be here when this tree starts to produce any of the fruit." This is not an old age joke, by the way, Neil. It's not at all the intention, right? And what is the person's response? The man says to him, "I planted this tree not for myself, but for the benefit of others who may come after me." Right? That's Neil. So much of what you've done, so much of what you continue to do, are for things that I think will actually outlast all of us in this room. And God willing, that will be the case. 120-something years, another 120-something years afterwards. But make no mistake, right? Cute stories aside, Midrash and all that, Torah, all that, in reality, we're talking about a real wonderful friend, a real serious person who I have enjoyed very much over the years, being challenged by and challenging back from time to time, and to whom I truly, to this day, have a handshake agreement with this temple. Right? I'm in this place because of that hand. That's the one that I trusted when I signed up for the first day, and I hope will carry me through the rest of my career. So to you, Neil, we celebrate you 3 times over. We celebrate you every day. We appreciate everything that you have done. On a personal level, I want to thank you for everything that you have done for me and my family. And I want to congratulate you for surviving my entire sermon without needing to fall asleep or to... Well, that's another thing I should point out as a last word, right? Oh, don't worry. I've got plenty of material. That one I get to roast him rather than being kind. But to know also, right, that as we celebrate you, Neil, we celebrate you, Andrea, and you, Jill, and Ike, wherever you are watching, and the rest of the family, and just know all those hours and days that you have devoted to us meant a lot of times that you were not with them. So we appreciate that as well, although Andrea may say that was probably not the worst thing in the world. Take him more. Well, we'll take you up on that as well. But we thank you, we love you, and we wish you many, many more, as they say, ad mea ve'esrim, Neil, until 120. So that's your mandate, until I retire, okay? That's the deal. So with that, I wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom. And we'll turn back to our prayer books, to our Sidurim, to page 586 at the very bottom of the page, Aleinu L'Shabeach. Again, page 586 at the very bottom of the page. Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol, Latet Gedula L'Yotzer Breshit, Shelo Asanu Kegoye Ha'aratzot, Velo Samanu Kamishbechot Ha'adama, Shelo Samach Elkeinu Kahem, Vegor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Banachnu Korim, Umishtachavim Umodim, Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Page 591. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Now ask those in mourning, those observing yahrzeit to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We think of those first who've passed in our community in recent months. Isabel Becker, Bert Bitterman, Julian Busgang, Morty Schwatzky, Deborah Fogarty, Richard Gambino, Jerry Goldsmith, Dr. Sam Gould, Rita Hertzfeld, Jesse Hirsch, Sean Leibowitz, Samuel Moskowitz, Jeffrey Nagelberg, Barbara Strasser, Fania Verrett, and David Weinstein. We also mark the yahrzeits that occurred during the last week for Janet Blum, Judith Brandenburg, Beatrice Barak, Solomon Cohen, Louis Field, Yale Gelman, Alice Grossman, Rose Grossman, Terry Katz, May Kelman, Dorothy Klein, Jack Kolitnik, Joseph Krennick, Joel Margaretin, Fandy Meyer, Murray Potashik, Mary Rachlin, Abraham Riskin, Beverly Ronick, Lola Snyder, Frida Tarlow, Jack Ullman, and Peter Weinstein. In addition to those names that we just read, if we have anyone else saying Kaddish for anyone you'd like to mention their names? Of course, we'll invite those watching at home to add names of their loved ones as well, as we remember also all the lives that have been taken in Israel. And we'll invite the mourners to join with me on page 598, and if it's your custom, you may rise in support of those in mourning. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach la'alam u'li'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Okay, please be seated, and Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Okay, a few important announcements. The first is, of course, to join us after we're done with our services tonight to celebrate Deal again a little further. Our Oneg Shabbat, of course, is sponsored by Andrea and Jill Fagan. Thank you very much. Neil might have had something to do with it or not. And when we go next door, we'll sing him a happy birthday for sure. And we hope that you'll stick around, really eat. Neil loves watching people eat, so stay and eat as much as you possibly can. Also, we want to welcome our visitors for this evening. If anybody is interested in being a part of this community that we just talked about so much, you're welcome to talk to me. I think Rona, who's our membership chair, is not here tonight, but I'll try to serve in that function. So anybody can come up and ask me any questions they like. Reminder, tomorrow services begin here at 10 o'clock. You can join us live or online, followed by our Kiddush lunch and our hybrid Torah study, which again is available to those with us here in our space, or of course those watching online via Zoom. So that's again 12 o'clock on Zoom or in person. Also a reminder, this Sunday at 9:30, our lay-led minyan continues on Zoom. Our minyan is in response to the war in Israel, so those that want to join again for another opportunity to pray together in community can join. The Zoom link is found in the temple email that goes out every Thursday. Reminder for Monday, our 10:30 Nida Mitzvah. Okay, we'll be meeting here. Heschel class at 2 o'clock, 3:30 our Hebrew school, and 5 o'clock the virtual social justice meeting. Tuesday at 5:30 is the next of Rabbi Alan Levin's virtual listening circles. Again, most of that in response to what's going on in Israel, but again, an opportunity for those that just need a place to be able to, share their feelings. Rabbi Levin will help to guide that again Tuesday, January 30th. Just make sure to register in advance. Also, my class on the history of Zionism, the State of Israel, continues on Wednesday evening. And that, again, is at 7 o'clock. You can join us, or 6 o'clock, sorry. Virtual class, just you can join at any point. There are previous classes that are recorded, so anybody who wants to catch up, if you missed anything, you're welcome to do that as well. And then, of course, on Thursday, which is a really great program, 7 o'clock here. It's a hybrid program, so join us here at the temple or online. Next in our series of conversations on science and religion, this time a conversation trying to answer the question, can music heal? So I will be in conversation with Victoria Bond, who is an internationally acclaimed composer and conductor, and our very own Judy Klinghoffer, who helped to facilitate that conversation. So a reminder again, that is this Thursday, February 1st at 7 o'clock. And we have more things to come, but there are things to check on our e-blast. So please make sure that you're checking that each week. And Neil, I should have said this to you before to give you more time. Do you have a request for a closing song? Anything that you... Okay. So Neil said, for those that maybe haven't been with us recently, this was an idea actually that Shelley came up with a number, really, it's now probably more than a month and a half, 2 months ago, as we continue to think especially of those who are still held in hostage. And even though, again, a small symbolic act that many congregations around the country have done various things in order to make sure that we don't forget. And so one of the things that we've done here is to symbolically set a second set of candles, knowing that there are those who can't light those candles on their own, and we hope very much that they will be returned to freedom and the ability to do that. But we do that again as a symbolic way of remaining connected in that way. And I'll just mention I think he just left, but David Freiberg, who just came back from Israel as of literally right from JFK. So if he's still around, you certainly can ask him how he's doing. But you know, it's to say the least is complicated times. And my brother being there now in Jerusalem, also a lot of us daily thinking about friends and family, and always praying, especially for those that are still held captive to be returned home. So, Adon Olam, good answer. Good answer. And we're on page 625, if I remember correctly. On page 625. Adon Olam asher malach beterem kol yetzir nivra liet nasa bechefza kol Azai melech shemo nikra ve'achare kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora vehu haya vehu hove vehu yeh betifara vehu echad ve'en sheni Lehamshilo lehachbira beli reshit beli tachlit velo haoz vehamisra behu eli vechai goali vetzor chevli betzahara vehu nisi umanotzli Menat kosi beyom ekra beyado afkid ruchi betishan ve'ahira ve'im ruchi geviati Adonai li velo ira. Arise for Kiddush on page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam b'horei perhi hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavahanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron lemahaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh Zecher litziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom. Please come next door and we'll sing Neil a happy birthday once we get next door. Good Shabbos.
Rabbi should have said, what did you say, you were still
So I stayed over and I went back this morning. It's the first time I've been back to see my wife. No. So Emily's already. Yeah. So Lauren is at
oh, yeah.
Yeah, but she's in
He's been in Israel 3 times.
I really find some way to go.
We met at Jones Road.
Hey, good shot. Welcome back. Good to see you, man. How are you?
It was very nice that we don't forget residents. So we're integrations over there.
She's so
I appreciate that.
you speak and I listen.
It's always nice to see you, especially when you see I do. Let's go something else.